The United States is a country that takes human rights seriously. We do not torture.
You have an opinion on whether waterboarding, which is the practice of putting somebody in a reclining position, strapping them down, putting cloth over their faces, and pouring water over the cloth to simulate the feeling of drowning, is that constitutional?
If it amounts to torture, it is not constitutional.
I'm very disappointed in that answer. I think it is purely semantic.
Sorry.
There's been a good deal of misinformation about the CIA detainee program, and unfair comments have been made about America's intentions and the conduct of American intelligence officers.
What's the level of concern here that a law may have been broken, or laws may have been broken?
I think I'll decline the comment. I spoke to the President this morning about this. He has no recollection of being made aware of the tapes.
No, sir, I don't remember where that conversation took place. I don't recall either. Sir, I have no recollection of knowing when that occurred. I don't recall the specific mention of this conversation. I don't recall Senator, I don't recall any of the same. I don't recall, and I don't recall whether it was Mr. Mercer who presented me the number. There are two that I do not recall knowing in my mind. Senator, I don't recall in connection with this review process. I do not recall what I knew about it. I just don't recall the reason. Senator, that I don't recall remembering. I don't recall the reason why. Senator, I don't recall sending a follow-up. I don't recall being a... Senator, I don't recall specifically. I don't have any recollection about the mechanics of I don't recall making any. I don't recall ever saying. I don't recall ever doing that. Senator, I don't recall whether or not I made the decision that day. I don't recall exactly when the decision. Senator, I don't recall. No, I don't recall being aware of the letter. Senator, I don't recall whether there's been action on that. But Senator, I can't recall whether or not at the time he made. Senator, I don't recall having specific questions, or I don't recall such a conversation. But I don't recall asking for a reporting line. Senator, I don't recall that occurred. Senator, I have searched my memory. I have no recollection of the meeting. I have no recollection of that meeting. Yes, I have no memory of this, but I can only testify as to what I recall. Believe me, but I don't recall the contents of this meeting. I don't know that a decision was made at that meeting. So I don't recall when the decision was made. Senator, I wasn't aware of this email. Sir, I don't recall the exact time frame, but sir, I didn't tell him 15 or 20. I don't recall telling him 15 or 20 times. I do not recall. I'm sorry. I thought your question was, do you recall the conversation? I don't recall the conversation. I don't recall whether or not I was present. I suspect I probably was, but I don't recall. I don't recall. Sir, where is it? Sir, I don't recall ever seeing. I don't recall him speaking to me about that, sir. I don't recall precisely what he said, but I don't recall what happened after that. Sir, I don't recall having any conversations with Mr. Rove. Well, I can't recall exactly what I said, but sir, I don't recall specific. Sir, I don't recall the number. Sir, I don't recall there being an audit. I don't recall such an audit. As Attorney General, I don't recall taking such a position, sir. I don't recall the President ever telling me specifically to fire a United States Attorney, sir. But I don't recall remembering the reason. Senator, I don't recall the meeting. Senator, I don't recall whether he called or whether it was a visit. It may have